Hello everyone, welcome to the channel of Deep Sight. I am your host Stardust. The Huns are a magical nation in human history. They appear mysteriously and disappear mysteriously, like fog, rain and wind. So where did they come from, what did they go through, where did they end up, and where do they live today? Today we will delve into and reveal the stories about the Xiongnu. The Huns were a nomadic people in the northern part of the Asian continent in ancient times. They established a powerful tribal alliance state in Mabe. They had many wars and marriages with the Qin and Han empires, and also influenced the history of Central Asia and Europe. So, what is the origin, culture and destiny of the Huns? Let's take a look. First, let's look at the origins of the Huns. The name Xiongnu first appeared in historical materials during the Warring States period, but their ancestors may be even older. According to records in ancient Chinese books such as historical records, the Xiongnu royal family is the descendant of the Xiahou family and has a common ancestor with the Chinese nation. In the process of development, the Huns also merged into other different national ethnic groups, such as Yixiu, Lufan, Linhu, Yueshur, etc. Scholars have different guesses about the main ethnic group of the Huns. Some think they are Scythians, some think they are Turkic, some think they are Mongolian, and some think they are a mixture of multiple ethnic groups. In short, the Huns were a diverse nomadic people who formed a huge empire on the Mongolian plateau. Next, let's take a look at the culture of the Huns. The Huns were a nomadic military regime. Their leader was called Xiongnu, who was the supreme ruler. Below them were the left and right Xian kings, the left and right Guli kings, etc., who were in charge of different regions and tribes. The social hierarchy of the Huns was divided into nobles and civilians. The nobles had official seals and privileges, while the civilians had to obey the orders of the nobles. The Huns practiced polygamy, and the queens and wives of the Xiongnu and kings were called the Yan family, which had a certain influence on the politics of the Huns. The Huns' economy mainly relied on animal husbandry. They regarded horses as their most precious animals and calculated their wealth in horses. The Huns were very powerful militarily. They were good at riding and shooting, using curved bows and arrows, and were able to maneuver flexibly on the battlefield, posing a huge threat to the enemy. The Huns had polytheistic religious beliefs. They worshipped natural gods such as the gods of heaven, earth, fire, and water. They also worshipped some totems, such as leopards, wolves, and eagles. The art of the Huns is also very distinctive. Their gold, silver, bronze, pottery, etc. all have exquisite patterns and shapes, which reflect their life and aesthetics. There are some particularly noteworthy aspects of the Huns' culture, such as their institutions, etiquette, and customs. The system of the Huns was a feudal system with the Xiongnu as the core. The Xiongnu was the supreme ruler. He had absolute power. He could appoint and remove kings and officials. He could also allocate and expropriate land and property. He can also decide war and peace, and no one dares to disobey his orders. The etiquette of the Huns is a hierarchical system in which the Xiongnu is respected. The Xiongnu is the highest venerable person. His identity and status are sacred. His family members and nobles must salute him, and his common people must bow to him. He will kneel down and his enemies will surrender to him. The custom of the Huns is a prairie culture that is proud of horses. Horses are the life and wealth of the Huns. They use horses for trading and giving away, they use horses for hunting and fighting. They use horses for entertainment and sacrifices, they use horses for express their emotions and beliefs. Next, let's look at the Huns' war. The Huns were a warlike nation. Their wars had two main purposes, one was for expansion and conquest, and the other was for plunder and survival. The Huns' wars had two main targets. One was the nomadic peoples and neighboring them, such as Donghu, Xinbei, Wusun, Kangjiu, etc., and the other was the farming civilizations that confronted them, such as Qin, Han, Western regions, Rome, etc. The wars of the Huns had two main characteristics. One was based on riding and shooting, and the other was based on surprise attacks. The Huns' wars had two main results. One was that it caused huge destruction and killing, and the other was that it promoted cultural and trade exchanges. In the Wars of the Huns, there were some events that deserve special attention, such as their confrontation with the Qin and Han dynasties, their westward migration and invasion, and their division and decline. The confrontation between the Huns and the Qin and Han dynasties was a war that lasted for more than 200 years. It began after Qin Shi Huang unified China and tried to conquer the Huns. The Huns resisted the Qin army and even invaded Guangzhou. The war between the Huns and China was protracted and ended. Emperor Wu of the Han dynasty launched a large-scale expedition to defeat the Xiongnu and force them to retreat to Mabei. This war was a historic contest between the Chinese nation and the Xiongnu nation. It shaped the character and destiny of the two nations. Finally, we come to the fate of the Huns. The Huns reached their heyday at the end of Qin and the beginning of Han. They once besieged Liu Bang, the founder of the Han dynasty, and also forced the Han dynasty to make peace. However, during the period of Emperor Wu of the Han dynasty, they were defeated by the Han army, withdrew from Monan, and began to decline. The Huns later split into the Southern Huns and the Northern Huns. The Southern Huns surrendered to the Han dynasty, and the Northern Huns migrated to the grasslands of Central Asia, where they had exchanges and conflicts with other nomadic peoples. The westward migration and invasion of the Huns was a migration that lasted for hundreds of years. It began when the Huns were oppressed by other nomadic peoples in Mabei, moved to the grasslands of Central Asia, and ended with the establishment of the Huns on the European continent. A powerful empire threatened the security of Rome. This migration was an important contact between the Huns and European civilization. It changed the history and geography of Europe. The division and decline of the Huns was a decline that lasted for hundreds of years. It began when the Huns split into Southern Huns and Northern Huns in Mabei and Central Asia. The Southern Huns surrendered to the Han dynasty, and the Northern Huns mixed with other nomadic peoples. Ended with the Xiongnu's crazy expansion in Europe. The descendants of the Huns established different political regimes in history, such as Hanzhou, Bailiang, Huxia, Gaochang Bailiang, etc., and some also integrated into other ethnic groups, such as Turks, Uyghurs, Khitans, Mongols, etc. The culture and genes of the Huns also influenced European history. Some scholars believe that the Huns, Avars, Bulgars, etc. are all related to the Huns. The name of the Huns has gradually disappeared in history, but their spirit and heritage have been passed down to this day. The above is my introduction to the Huns. I hope you like it. If you want to know more about the Huns, or have any questions or suggestions, please leave a message in the comment area. Thank you for watching. Everyone is welcome to subscribe to our channel and share relevant content. Your support is our greatest encouragement. See you next time.